This is the way that we bring it down. Down, down, 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 down. Igniting the fire within you. Exalting the melody of freedom. These are the things that will bring it down. Down, down, 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 down. So gather the faithful. Tell everyone to stand and shout loud. Shout loud. Shout loud. Let's bring it down. Let's bring it way down. Let's bring it down. Let's bring it down, down. Let's bring it down. Let's bring it way down. Let's bring it down. Let's bring it down, down. Down, down, down.
Let me tell you, it's in the air. Joy is in the air. Love is in the air. Can you feel it? What it feel like? Freedom. What it feel like? Don't sleep on it, brother. You might get left, sister. Can you feel it? What it feel like? Freedom. What it feel like? Justice. No need to be counted, cause I am down. Down, down, down. Down, down, down. Down for the end of racism, for the end of bigotry, cause I am down. For the end of misogyny, that's right. For all the isms out there, just down, down, down. Let's bring it down. Rise up, people. No more foolishness, and let's bring it way down.
Riding the river of change into the cries of contrition. This is the way that we bring it down. Down, down, 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 down. We are the children of Eden, dancing and celebrating freedom. We are the ones that must bring it down. Down, down, 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 down. So gather the faithful. Tell everyone to stand and shout loud. Shout loud. Shout loud. Let's bring it down. Let's bring it way down. Let's bring it down. Let's bring it down, down. Let's bring it down. Let's bring it way down. Let's bring it down. We've got to bring it down. Down. Stand up and shout. Stand up and shout. Rise together.
Accountability starts now. The Eric Dawson Radio Show.
Yeah. Rise up. Stand up, shouting loud.
If you are not prepared to come to that table and to represent that voice, don't come. Because we don't need any more brown faces that don't want to be a brown voice. We don't need black faces that don't want to be a black voice. We don't need Muslims that don't want to be a Muslim voice. We don't need queers that don't want to be a queer voice. And if you're worried about being marginalized and stereotyped, please don't even show up.
Okay, now. Good morning, everybody. Man, I got ready to get all my lights on and everything. I got some of them on, not all of them. But good morning. Happy Election Day. And I guess happy spouse, significant other. Well, actually, no significant others, right? Spouse and for me, fiance day. So, and yeah, it's good. Mrs. Squire, it's good to see you.
Hi.
All right, so you have your paddle to keep Vincent in line?
Yes.
Good. It's going to be needed. And Amina won't be joining me side by side, but she will be calling in.
Okay, calling in.
Yeah, she'll call in, and I won't mute, and I'll stand by everything I've ever said on this show. Oh, gosh. But today is Election Day and Deidre Viney Day. So I wonder if Deidre's going to call in. But welcome, everybody. It's going to be a lively show, I think. We already got Big Will called in. I told him, hold your horses, Will. Call back. So he's eager to call as well. Hey, Diane, you there?
I'm here. I'm in the background. I'm listening. Mm-hmm.
Oh, but you are here. Okay. Yeah, so I was listening to the news this morning, and they were talking about towns where the stores are boarded up. That the store owners are literally boarding up their stores. Have you seen that in your town? Oh, wait. This is Deidre Viney. Deidre?
Eric?
Good morning.
Good morning.
Hey, Deidre.
I tried to call you. Did I miss the show?
No. We're here.
No?
We're all here.
Okay, Deidre, you got your husband?
Oh, that's right. You don't have...
Hey, no. That's not fair. All
right.
Women don't have their husbands.
See,
we know that. We control this, not y'all.
See, that's interesting. That's interesting. I got to call Warren. Me and Warren gonna do. Warren and I gonna do a separate show.
Yeah. The He-Man Woman Haters show.
The He-Man Woman Haters show. That's absolutely right. But Deidre, I was asking a question because I was listening to the news today, this morning, and they were saying that store owners in various towns are starting to board up their stores in anticipation of a riot of sorts depending upon the outcome of today's election. Is that happening in West Orange?
My office is in Jersey City, and our building is boarded up.
Wow.
Yep.
Wow.
And I'm in an office building, so they did it a couple months ago too, when there was a lot of, peaceful protests going on.
Right.
They did board it up, but yeah, it's boarded up. It's craziness, but it is boarded up.
I mean, do you feel different? Like, I literally was driving today, and it felt different. Like, it just felt different. It was
it's almost feel like you're waiting for something to happen.
It's eerie. It's an eerie feeling outside. Almost like an Edgar Allan Poe kind of, or Stephen King kind of moment.
Kind of shout.
Yeah.
Psycho.
Something like literally something. There's a like
you're living in a horror movie.
Yeah.
And you hear somebody saying get out.
Well, that's because people have allowed the media to tell them how their emotions should be and what they should be thinking. That's why.
It's like a disturbance in the force, right? Like something's happening.
Well, you're looking at Mr. Enabler and Dog Whistler, who has now emboldened people to chase down campaign buses.
Yep.
Slow the traffic on Turnpike, plan to kidnap a couple of governors. Yeah, I think it would be wise to anticipate something.
Well, again, that's media, because this ain't stuff that just happened. Eric, we know some stuff we've done on the campaign trail, so this ain't new stuff.
Well, that's what I'm saying. So, yeah, listen. When I worked the last election that I worked in Newark, you had the mayor send his goons out to beat people up at night, literally, for hanging posters. They engaged the drug dealers and gang members to monitor certain areas so that the opponent couldn't come in and post his stuff. So, I mean, like seriously. So when I listen to this, and especially in these communities, and so we're talking Essex County. I know you're down in Camden County, but I can tell you, man, in Essex County, politics are rough and tumble. So what you look, there was a bus that got burned in the 2014 election.
Yes, you remember that?
Come on now. My dad's building got broken into. Second floor. Somebody scaled the building. When I got there, they had ripped the alarm out and there was blood like this all happened. So literally, when I'm listening to what you're talking about, Vincent, tell them to come to Newark.
The difference is, though, that was local. We expect that with local politics, I gotta say. I mean, Octavius Cotto, a very famous black man, was notoriously killed in the 1800s by the Democrats. But this is national. This is the president. We expect him to be above the fray.
But why? Why? I mean,
because he's the president, he represents the United States.
But the United States, but when we talk about the United States, what they typically represent, wait a minute, hey babe, you can call in anytime you want. But when you talk about the United States and what presidents have represented, they have represented a government that has been oppressive. They have represented a government that has been brutal. They have represented that. Now they've done it. It's almost like a Ku Klux Klan member who puts a hood on. And so because you don't know who they are, somehow it's different. Oh, you're coming on camera?
All right, yeah, Nina.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
Uh-oh. Uh-oh, you got bent down so they can see. She got to get a chair. Uh-oh.
Okay.
Yeah, can you see the sweat? Oh boy. It's getting tight in the studio.
Here's the thing. We understand.
Oh, you got to be higher.
We understand the early 1900s. But we're talking 2020.
Here,
and they're still trying to use the same techniques of voter suppression and voter intimidation to change the outcome of the vote.
Well, why wouldn't he do it? It works.
Just sit right here.
And we never had the president actually speaking out like that. But he always had his people do the speaking.
Adjust your camera, Eric.
No, you got to lean in toward me.
Been, even whether he believes it or not, has always tried to portray himself as above the fray. Now we have a president who is down in it.
Right.
I don't believe that Barack wasn't in it. I don't believe that Bush wasn't in it. They knew what was going on, but this guy is calling them out.
Right, but here's the question I want to ask you.
Eric, before you answer, can you adjust your camera image? Take a look at what we're seeing nationally here, and you might want to change your camera angle.
What are we seeing nationally? I don't know.
Your heads are cut off.
Your heads are cut off.
My head's cut off?
Yeah.
Both of you.
No, my head is fine. Oh, you're looking through your Skype, Vincent.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, no, we're fine. I can see what everybody else is saying, but Amina, you need to either squash. Oh, wait a minute. No, sit right here. There we go. Off my. No, right there. Hold on. Oh no. Okay. There we go. See, now you got to lean into me. See, you're trying to. Right there.
There we go.
There we go.
Okay.
So, here's what I want to ask. Like, we are comfortable living in the Matrix, right? We're comfortable being plugged in and not having the truth told to us, and somehow wandering through life thinking or wanting to believe that things aren't the way that they are. And what Donald Trump has done is said, no, this is exactly how it is. And people are uncomfortable with that. But it's no different with any other president. They just made you feel comfortable while they were oppressing people, while they were marginalizing the poor, while homelessness was on the rise, while the racial wealth gap was growing. They just made you feel comfortable. So Donald Trump said, hey, listen, I'm not about making you feel comfortable. This is what it is. And my fear is that people just want to get back to this level of comfort and not get back and not get to. See, because there's no going back. Like whether it's Biden or whoever else says, I want to get back to something. I'm saying that the thing that you want to get back to, if we look in the rearview mirror, hasn't ever worked for Black Americans. And so I don't want to ever go back. I want to go to a new place.
But that's the whole point, Eric. The difference is this. They want to oppress it so that they can go back. We need to press forward so that we can move forward and progress.
No, I don't disagree with you. I'm simply saying that listen. Here's the reality of it. Every single elected official has bought in to this ideology that America is the commodity to their wealth and their individual power. I can tell you as an insider, every senator, every governor, every congressman that I have ever worked for, they never thought a damn about people. They were instantly talking about who they were going to give jobs to, who were going to get the sweetheart contracts, literally. So if we say that is the system, and we just got to be honest, all of them, and the ones who are coming up now, they saw and see how the other ones have benefited, and they want to be like Nancy Pelosi. They want to be the richest congressperson in America. They want to be like Chuck Schumer. They want to be there for 30-something years. They want to do that. They want to sit over and manage poverty because that's how they do best.
Before we go off on a Deidre Viney day.
Oh, I'm sorry. Deidre.
Let's look at one simple fact, Eric. We know that nepotism happens, especially in politics. We know that once they're elected, there are people who have supported them, bankrolled them, and pushed them through their campaign. We know that people want to win, and we know that people cheat, and they're rewarded for that. Now that we know that, okay, so let's remove the veil off of that. Now, that was done in the back door. He's doing it in everybody's face.
So what? So here's my deal. I don't, like I said to you before, Vincent.
That is part of the system that we are now voting to tear down.
But Vincent, here's what I said to you before in the show. So the question then is, and then I want to go on to Deidre because she may have some very, as she usually does, some tremendous jewels to drop in terms of people looking for jobs. But I wanted to say before we move to her segment, I don't want to be screwed, right? I don't. So if the alternative, if you say, well, that one's gonna give you a glass of wine and a nice dinner, and then this one's just gonna screw you. I'm going, no, I don't want to be screwed. And I'm saying, so over here, they want to give you a glass of wine and a nice dinner. And this guy over here said, I'm not giving you anything. I'm just going to screw you over, and that's it. And then we're offended at the manner in which he screws us, not the fact that we're being and have been screwed for 400 years. So wait, nope, we could hold that. Deidre?
Okay.
Deidre? Is she there? Did we lose Deidre? Did we lose her?
Okay, while we find
You hear me? I'm here.
Oh, okay. So, sorry we went off on a tangent. But it is election
That's okay.
day.
We can table my stuff. I know the election is a big deal, and I am happy to listen in and call in on another day. I'm more than happy to do that. It's no problem whatsoever.
But before you do, could you give us the bulletin on jobs that are hot right now and trending?
But so it's interesting because I'm actually out on the road right now. I went to visit a client of mine that needs a lot of people. That particular place is kind of warehouses. I get a good bulk of those kind of jobs right now because those seem to be really, really busy. So I'm always in need of folks that are able to work a forklift, able to work in general warehouse positions. I desperately need a good 2 or 3 customer service people that work in warehouses in an office, but they're customer service. I have 3 openings right now for that in Kearney. I'm still looking for a supervisor for a warehouse distribution place in Kearney. I need a maintenance tech also in Newark. Oh goodness, I'm trying to think. 'Cause I'm on the road today, so I apologize.
So, Deidre, let me ask you a quick question. Why do you? Is it just such an abundance of forklift jobs that are there that you can't fill them all, or is there a problem finding forklift drivers?
It's both. It's both. So this time of the year, a lot of these companies in this area, I'm in Newark, Jersey City, Kearney. They start to get busy. This is no different than prior years. They get busy. This is their time of the year. Bringing products from overseas, whatever. This one particular company, he's got a lot of containers, and so they are just busy. And you can't find enough people that may have that skill set.
Right.
There's a shortage of those, and then there's an influx of demand. Couple those together, it's been super challenging.
Got it.
We are now into the season change. So you're looking at stores and retailers now are gearing up for 2 things, or actually 3 things. The word in terms of retail is that they're pushing Christmas early. So you will see that in terms of warehousing, they're now getting shipments and orders in for the Christmas supply. You're looking at shipments and orders coming in for the upcoming Thanksgiving. And you're looking at a lot of supermarkets that are bulking up and building up for the second wave of the pandemic.
Yeah, I have a supermarket too I work with there. I can't put enough people there. So yeah, it's really, really, you're right. I think no one's going to cancel Christmas. They're just not having it. And so even we have a couple, obviously there's 5 Amazons in our market now. There was 0 this time last year. So that's a big indication of what's happening. So it's just a lot of everything going on. And
what's the pay?
So the pay ranges for some of these roles are probably between $13 to $16 an hour for the temp roles, temp to hire. I have temp to hire roles too.
Deidre, is there particular training that a forklift driver needs to have? Is that why it's so difficult? Is it the requirement?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. They need to have a certification, first of all, and that typically is done by the state. Mm-hmm. And then a company that they've worked at usually will invest in them and give them that kind of proper training. So one of the things we can talk about next week, I was going to talk about upskilling, because that's something that's great to add to your, abilities. But an employer has to invest that time in you. To train you.
Is the cost to be trained? Is the cost for training to be a forklift driver? Is it prohibitive? I mean, is it like thousands of dollars?
No, companies that have a trainer on site that I don't think it's cost prohibitive at all. And then the state of New Jersey has sort of the pen and paper, if you will, of the forklift certification that people can take that as as well. But I don't think so. They need them. And so the companies are willing to invest the time and effort for someone that's willing to do it.
I'm sorry, I was going to say, is it affordable if an individual wanted to pay for the training themselves, or is it cost prohibitive and mostly paid for by employers?
Yeah, I don't necessarily think you can pay for it yourself.
Gotcha.
Because a lot of it is hands-on. You got to actually be behind a forklift to make sure you know what you're doing, and then they give you certain assessments or whatever based on that.
So wait a minute, when you say that a company
that piece of equipment.
When you say a company invests in you, so a company can hire you without having that certification, and then you're saying that they will then train and pay for the training?
Correct.
Got it.
Oh, I see. So it's not like a training program that someone can attend. get the certification, take whatever state licensing, and then be approved. It's funnels through the company.
Not that I'm aware of. I mean, there could be. I know they have something which you're similarly you're talking about. It's for truck drivers.
Right, CDL.
For forklift drivers, what I've always seen is hands-on at a company.
Got
They
it.
take the time and do the certification because the certification has to be at the company site.
Got it.
Yeah, and then they can take that to the next place, but then the next place has to then certify them and go through the proper OSHA training and all that good stuff. But there's definitely things you can do online, but again, it's pen and paper. It's
Right.
It's not
hands-on.
machinery, which is what you really need to do.
Sure.
And they also have to pass a drug test, right?
Deidre,
That's part of it.
they also have to pass a drug test.
Yeah, don't say that, please.
But you would still have to be clean. I mean,
you just like drinking. You can't come to work with alcohol. You know, you can't come with marijuana. So
right.
don't put that bug in anyone's ear. We need clean for working.
Right.
Excellent.
Yes. So, but happy to listen in. The election is super important. I'm hoping everyone, I know Jersey, we probably had it all together. I voted 4 weeks ago. But happy to talk about some other stuff as relates to that.
All right.
Thanks, Deidre.
Yeah.
Just sit back.
Have your husband call in too. We got questions.
I know. You know what? I didn't know this was a bring your spouse to work day. Deidre, that's because they didn't tell us. That's why.
Well, that's not true.
All week.
Well, you know what? See, Diane, and you know, because when we were off air, I said, "Oh, I didn't tell Amina, but I'm gonna text her now."
He
See?
just told me like
See?
15 minutes ago.
See that?
That was this morning.
Where's Warren?
Warren said he may call in so he could show out. I said, yo.
There we go. There we go.
I hope he does call.
That's it, Warren.
Okay, Amina,
Yeah.
I've been dying to ask you this question.
Uh-oh.
Can I see the ring?
You can.
Woo-hoo, yes. Congratulations.
Wait. Can you see
Get a
it?
beauty contestant wave. Drop it down a little bit further. There you go. All
No,
right.
you have to come this way.
Congratulations
This
on
way.
your
Oh,
betrothal.
thank you very much.
So how did he propose? The smooth, debonair man he is.
I'll let him tell you.
First, I rented a herd of pachyderm.
Ridiculous.
I had them. I mean, the neighbors were a little upset, and then the cleanup was a mess, right?
They should have been happy for the free fertilizer.
Hey, listen, man, that's exactly what I said, Vincent. But I was dressed in all white, and I was on the lead elephant, and Amina looked out the window, and it was almost like a Rapunzel kind of thing, you know.
And the trunk of the elephant reached up. I
And she
climbed out the window.
And you slid down
the
see.
onto the head of the
Come on
elephant.
now.
Then Eric was at the tail of the elephant. And then
And then that's right. And then
How it went down.
That's how it went down. I mean, there was a blimp overhead, and it just unleashed an array of confetti, and that was it.
Oh.
Now I want somebody to match that. No, I do. Well, so I bought the ring, and I just kind of contemplated how I was going to propose to her, and I hadn't intended to propose. Well, I had one way that I was going to do it in, and it didn't. Like, you have a vision in your head, right? And then I was like, okay, that's probably not going to really match well with reality. But that vision was that I was going to try to put the ring on her finger while she was asleep, right? And then just have her wake up with the ring on, right? And then just kind of, in that like fog of waking up, try to figure out what was happening. Then I was like, that doesn't seem to, So got a cake, came home. I don't know. Did I have music playing? Might have had some music playing.
Oh, Marvin Gaye?
No Marvin Gaye. And then
Some sad, some
no.
music.
It was Ray Charles and Sarah Vaughan, and it was
Georgia.
no. I'll remember the song in a minute. But then, I sat on a bed and she was there, and I told her that I called her father. And so I think that kind of threw her off at first, because she's like, what do you call my father for? And I said, well, I called him and I told him I had gone shopping for something, and I wanted to talk to him about it, and then I wanted to get his permission to, and I could see her, she was like trying to process what was going on, and then I put the box on the bed, and then she's like trying to put these pieces together, and it just kind of unfolded, and and then I presented her the ring and then asked her to marry me. And then when it was all over, she said, ask me again.
Because I just woke up, so I wasn't really coherent, and all this was happening, and I wasn't really awake yet.
The song is Come Rain, Come Shine. That was the song I was playing. Play both versions, Sarah Vaughan and Ray Charles. I like Sarah's better.
I do too.
Yeah.
I do too.
Yeah.
All right.
Wait a minute, we got.
Are you having a wedding or?
Zoom.
So I just brought a call in. Hold on, caller. I don't know. I think right now I'm the backseat driver on that journey. I mean, I guess I'll at some point get in the front seat when we talk about the date and all that kind of stuff.
Take it from me. The only thing you're gonna do is
show up.
Check.
That's it.
That's it. And show up. That's it.
And show up. That's it.
That's an important role.
That's what I'm saying. And that's why I'm gonna be in the back seat.
There are no small parts.
I didn't say. Listen, I didn't say sitting in the back seat was a small part, right? I'm in the car and I'm heading toward the destination.
Yeah.
Willingly.
For my wedding, I requested, like swans and, releasing, all that got killed. The
swans were killed? Is that what you said?
Right? No, my concept of the swan.
See, but that's what I'm saying. See, so you have this vision of grandeur, right? And then it just doesn't seem to match what really winds up happening. But in the age of COVID-19, we're not sure what's going to happen, right? I mean, like I would have loved for we drove down to Delaware and we saw her parents, I guess a week or so after, right? Mm-hmm. Her parents haven't met mine, and typically Thanksgiving is a huge thing on my side of family and for hers too. But like we have a massive gathering, and it would have been lovely to invite them all up. To join my family and to have everybody meet, but I don't want to be a part of a super spreader, so we won't be doing that.
Don't forget. Hey guys, Darren here. What's up?
D. Martin, what's the word?
Hey, Darren.
What's up, Doc?
Hey, Darren.
Yo, Darren, what's going on out there at the polls? What do you see?
Yeah, that's where I'm at now. It's pretty quiet because most people did, their ballots, they did the mail-in thing, or they dropped it in the secure mailbox. It's pretty quiet. You can really go in and do your provisional ballot really with no fanfare at all. Most people, thank God, did it early. So what I'm seeing out here is, exactly that. When I get back, I'm going to go back to the house and be making some more calls to Georgia, PA, and Florida. Other than that, that's what I've been doing, but it's quiet.
So are you posted in Union, or will you be rotating throughout the other towns in the county?
Oh, yeah, I'm Union, Newark, really Union County, and Essex County. Later on in the day, I normally go help out in Hudson County when they need help over there. To assist.
right now things seem to be really, really quiet. I mean, I know people railed against the mail-in voting, but I think I didn't get cut down on a lot of the crowds that would be standing out there, and so I didn't even like it at first. I was like, man, I want to go vote the regular way, whatever. But now you're seeing the results of that, where you don't have these long lines and stuff. So I think at the Prudential Center in Newark, it's really that became one of the super voting sites. You can walk right in. I mean, it's empty over there because I was over there a little while. It's really pretty cool. Pretty cool. It's quiet right now.
So, Darren, around 2, 3 o'clock, will you be able to give us an update as to what the numbers look like in Essex and Union County for our local elections? Like where the numbers at? I don't see any opposition really happening. Cory Booker's going to walk back, Democrat female trying to push a man out. Have you heard anything in that area?
I haven't really. You're right. There is an interesting race there, and in what's the other district? In the Congressional District 7, with Tom Malinowski and I think it's an Asian guy he's running against.
Right.
It's really, really, really close races. I'm supposed to get numbers at sometime around 4-ish. Before they would normally do like what they used to call the 4 o'clock cards. Those have been in politics a long time, like you, like Eric. And so around 4 o'clock is when I'll have a general idea of what the numbers are looking like in a few places, not just in New Jersey, but in a few places. So I have some contacts in PA, some contacts in Georgia, some contacts in Ohio, and Florida.
What about the race down in South Carolina? Because they got a really tough race going on. Is that where Mitch McConnell is in South Carolina?
No, he's in. Mitch is in Minnesota.
Kentucky.
No, I'm sorry, Kentucky. Right. I'm sorry.
And
Lindsey Graham.
Yeah, the other guy is South Carolina.
Right.
Lindsey Graham.
Jamie.
Lindsey.
Jamie is kicking his butt now.
Yeah.
It's impressive what he's been able to do thus far. Now, I don't know if it's going to translate. I mean, he's trying to knock out a dinosaur. It can happen. But
hey, listen, we saw it in New York with AOC, right?
What's that saying?
I said we saw it in New York with AOC. She took out the 3rd top ranking Democrat. So it's anything can happen.
It's possible.
It is possible.
So Darren, from what you heard, do you think that they're going to be able to turn Texas blue? They said they've had the highest turnout in Latinos and Asian Americans down there voting.
Wow.
I think Trump is going to win Texas.
Yeah, he's going to win Texas.
I'll win it by a lot, but I think he's going to win it only because Latinos seem to favor Trump. They like him.
Even after he said Puerto Rico need to pay their bills and didn't send any money.
Well, you know what? But you know why? You know why they like him? See, understand this, and we talked about this a while ago, and we talked about this a while ago. Puerto Ricans who are here, who follow the rules to get here, they're as offended as a lot of other people are of immigrants who skip the line, skip the process. I'm telling you. I'm telling you. Latinos, Jamaicans, Haitians, I've had conversations with a lot of them. And when I say a lot of them, I mean a lot of them. They find it deplorable. And so when you have somebody who says, "No, I'm going to cut it off," they look and go, "Yeah," and then that's why the Hispanics are there in support of Donald Trump. That's exactly what it is.
Yeah, I mean, look at how he treated the immigrants, putting them in a cage. We're talking about 500.
You're talking Democrat talking points again.
They can't find the parents for. We're looking at.
But these are Democrat.
Oh, the China flu, the Kung flu.
These are Democrat. But Vincent, here's a see. When you're talking to people, talking points don't resonate. What resonates with them is how their lives are affected, right?
Yeah.
And I'm telling you, they feel that their lives are affected. So I understand all of the talking.
Their lives are affected, especially if they're the children of illegal immigrants. And there's a large population of young people who are now of voting age who are American citizens, but their parents are not. And they don't want their parents sent home. So they're not going to support that policy.
Not to mention DACA and the Dreamers.
The Dreamers, right. I mean, yeah, they're a little different, but there's a lot of people that are very afraid that INS is going to come and take their mom.
Oh, no, I agree with you. But I'm saying it's not a wash. So what I'm saying is the Hispanic community is not monolithic. That's all I'm trying to say, right? So you have...
the black community.
That's right. So they have different interests.
We'd be in 2020.
Yeah.
We get some days we can't even agree on where we're going to dinner.
No, but the black community has never been monolithic. And if they would stop thinking that life would be so much better.
But we're not monolithic in terms of ideology.
No.
However, we have a strong degree of majority in terms of voting party. And that's what they've been focusing on.
Yeah. But
well, I tell you what's interesting is that I spoke to my contact in Florida yesterday. We had a real long conversation. Florida with the 29 electoral votes. The Cuban community is really for Trump.
Yes.
I mean, I say big time for Trump in Florida. And then I think there was a local gentleman who I also believe is Cuban in Long Island or something. I don't know if you guys saw it, but what he did was he had put a sign up in he owns a supermarket. He put up a sign saying all Trump supporters will get 20% off on their groceries, which is interesting.
Wow.
Because how do you know who's a Trump supporter who's not? Because I can just go there and say I'm a Trump supporter because there's a way to qualify. So the reporter asked them, "Listen, so you support Trump? Why didn't you just keep that quiet to yourself?" He said, "No, I wanted to let people know that I support Trump." And she asked him, "Are you going to do the same thing for Democrats? Because what if some of your customers are Democrats? You're not afraid of losing business?" He said, "No, I'm not afraid of losing business at all. Because my customers know that I provided this service to them, etc." If you Google it, I forget the guy's name, but it was, I believe it's Cuban. And it was in Long Island. It's a supermarket. It just came on a couple of days ago, and I caught the tail end, and I was shocked.
So Darren, but see, here's what Diane was saying earlier, right? I'm not shocked. I told the story yesterday about running into a Trump supporter at Walmart, and I wanted to take a selfie with him, and I regret not doing it. And I had my ADOS shirt on, my ADOS hat on. He had his Trump hat on, and was just as cordial and as nice as he could be. I'm saying to you that, yeah, you've got crazy folks out there, but then you just have other folks who say this guy represents, is fighting for me, whether or not, I'm in a tax bracket that, his policies are generous to, or whatever the other things are. They simply say that's my guy. And in the media, because the mainstream media, corporate owned, left leaning, was hell bent from day one of him being elected in destroying him. They put their thumb on the scale, and I'm not, again, look, I'm not saying that the guy's not a liar. I'm not saying that the guy didn't do a lot of things that folks are talking about. I'm simply saying that in the end, those people say, you know what, I'm voting my interests. And they're not the majority of the people who are out there chasing down folks, intimidating people, bad actors in this stuff. And like Diane said when we started this, and you know this, working in Hudson County politics, there's more rough and tumble stuff going on in Ward F in Jersey City or in Newark in Essex County probably than is going on in this presidential race. I mean, you understand what I'm saying? So
Absolutely. So Darren, can you just explain for the people that are listening that don't understand what are the electoral votes? How do they play a part in this as opposed as opposed to everybody going out with their individual votes, because people still don't understand how you get to one to get to the president.
Yeah, it's interesting. Electoral votes were really put into place many moons ago. I forget when it was put into place, but it was many moons ago when you did not have, at that time, you didn't have representation in every state. You didn't have, every state wasn't represented by an elected official. So they created the Electoral College many years ago. And so each state has their amount. Like the big fish, of course, is California. They have 55 electoral votes. Texas is the next highest at 38, etc. So what happened, and a lot of people still talking about it in 2015, is able to do what the polls are saying. And I tell people, don't trust the polls. Just go out and vote. Because you can't. We thought the polls said Hillary Clinton's supposed to win in 2016. We see that didn't happen. But if he's able to get large margins and to infiltrate, especially into those states where Donald Trump won less than 5% from the numbers that me and my guys are looking at, where those states are now at play now, then the Electoral College doesn't even come into play. Won't even come into play.
In terms of the history, basically 1803 was part of the big compromise, in which there was the 3/5 rule, where the South dominated in population because their slaves were counted as the votes. And so what they did was the Electoral College and added it to the Constitution, Article 2, Section 1, Clause 3, which nullified the 3/5 legislation. It became ratified June 15th, 1804. So basically, right after the election, Congress sits there and by the Senate and give their vote for the president. And it was done by the president winning the popular vote in those particular states.
Right, but here,
therefore, give those numbers to the president.
But here's the issue, right? And so folks are talking about getting rid of the Electoral College. But if you live in Iowa, Idaho, you live in one of those small states, you understand that the election would then be dominated by states like California, New York, and so every state should have a voice. And you shouldn't be relegated. I mean, you literally, in order to be counted, would have to migrate out of those smaller states into the larger states in order to have your voice be heard in a presidential election, and that's not fair.
Right. And to Eric's point, the District of Columbia, I'll tell you what it is. The District of Columbia, Wyoming, Vermont, South Dakota, North Dakota, Montana, Delaware, and Alaska all only have 3 electoral votes. Rhode Island, New Hampshire, Idaho, Hawaii, and Maine has 4. And then you get to the West Virginia, New Mexico, and Nebraska, Arkansas, Iowa, they only have 6. So that to Eric's point, that's why Eric's right about it. You won't really be able to get rid of it. And I don't have to ask the Congress anyway. That happened in our lifetime. I think all be getting gone before that even happened. I don't think it's about that.
So Darren, there was a question on the New Jersey ballot, and I'm not sure if it was a national question as well, in regards to redistricting. And a lot of people that went out to vote, or people that did the mail-in ballots, have not been talking about the questions that have been attached to these mail-in ballots. And I don't think they really paid attention. I think, because we had 3 for New Jersey, I think people just went across the board and either say yes or no without understanding it. Do you have any input on that?
It's a good point, Diane. I think they did a horrible job with articulating and putting it into words. Valid question number 3.
Yes.
To, like you said, redistricting, and it also spoke to the census. If the census wasn't counted in time and stuff, they just didn't. It wasn't put together. I don't know who came up with that one. How they did it.
Well, let's see. Who would it favor? Who would it favor? That's who came up with it. So you have to look at who's overseeing the Board of Elections in the state of New Jersey that it would favor for them not to have the interpretive explanation plain in English so people could understand what it meant.
It would favor the Democrats in the Republicans in New Jersey, because it's just their form of gerrymandering to move into a Republican stronghold so that they can finally take over.
It was hardly word. It wasn't word.
It was. I think it's more than just who is going to favor Republicans or Democrats. I think it's going to favor whoever has money, because the money is where the power is.
There you go.
Because regardless of who's in there, it's going to favor them to redistrict. So, for instance, if you go into, we'll just do South Jersey, Camden. If they redistrict Camden so that less people because less people turn out to vote, and they're able to shift the record, continue to do what they want to do down there. And those people down there are in control by the Democrats. So it's not necessarily the party. I think it's the people that are with the money that are doing it.
Yeah, Diane has a good point. And the other two questions were, I think, a little easier. The question number one was about the legalization of cannabis, marijuana, whatever, et cetera. That was an easier, and that was worded the way they wanted it worded. But Diane tried to screw up at the start. And the second question was about veterans getting affordable housing.
Credit.
Mm-hmm.
Credit, yeah. But even with the marijuana thing, because we had so much controversy about that here in New Jersey, and with Senator Rice discussing that we needed to attach the the expungement. Vincent, we can hear you, Vincent, mute. Even with the attachment of the expungement that Senator Rice wanted to attach, you see they bypassed him, went around him, and Scuttori put it on a question for the people to answer without the expungement attachment.
Totally went around him. You are absolutely correct. Politics as usual.
But redistricting also increases the representation that we're going to have in Congress, because they will probably get 3 to 4 more seats.
Yeah, the redistricting ballot question just changes when redistricting occurs this year because of COVID. Redistricting is going to change because of the census. Every 10 years we redistrict. So
it have to change.
It doesn't have to change. But the census doesn't change, then it doesn't have to change. But because of the census maybe being delayed, that's all that ballot question said was, let's delay redistricting until the census is completed. So I don't see any controversy in that.
But the controversy in that is when the federal government oversees when the census are going to be reported. So they have a deadline to when the census is supposed to be reported. So if Trump holds off that deadline and the redistricting does or does not happen, that affects us and where the money comes to. That's why it's controversial.
Especially in lower income areas who get federal money for schools and infrastructure.
Hey, Vincent, I was trying to see if you had a white jacket on. Is that just a white shirt?
It's a white shirt.
Oh, okay. You look rather snazzy today.
Well, I got my wife makes sure that when I'm with her, I represent well.
Wait, did you cut his hair too?
Nah.
No, but I just make sure he does it.
No, but there's certain Sundays where I'll be sitting on the bed with my kids and waiting for mommy to dress us for church.
I gotta tell you guys, I'm jealous because y'all having a couple show and I wasn't invited.
What happened was,
Darren, I just found out about it.
Amina just found out about it. Vincent was the most responsible. Diane's got Warren on lockdown, and
we want to let the brother call in.
Call him. Listen, we just got a call. Call and go.
Hey, Darren.
Your ladies are both looking beautiful, and. Matter of fact, you guys can go in the back room, but I think Miss Vincent is a school teacher. I will be interested on her explanation of the 3/5 clause and how it relates to the slaves population, and get some better understanding from a school teacher, because Vincent talked bad. and I don't understand a damn thing he says.
There's a support. There's a support group for that. She's the president.
I completely. I'm in that group myself, but no, I would be interested, coming from an educator's point of view. The 3/5 clause this is a teachable moment in this time, and how Electoral College is dominating our lives by people who are in small populations, as they say. So that's all I have to say. Everybody have a good day. Everybody looks beautiful up there.
Hey, thanks, Mike. Stay safe on the road.
And Eric. All right. Peace.
You do know that they are spoken for.
I was going to say, you didn't tell me about that show. So now you're going to give me the doghouse, man. Eric and Vincent is in trouble, Diane. They in big trouble. They're in big trouble now.
We're next couple show, we're going to do a lot more in terms of notification marketing and giving information out.
Yeah, we'll do that.
Good answer, Vincent.
We'll do that. So Mrs. Squire, to the caller's point, would you share from an educator standpoint?
Well, the 3/5 rule really did benefit. Before the 3/5 rule, the slave population overtook the white population. The black population in the United States was larger than the white population at that time because they had thousands and thousands of slaves. So the 3/5 rule reduced the population of the South because otherwise the South would have overtaken the North in everything because they would have voted their slaves' votes. So they reduced that to reduce the impact of the South on everything, voting issues. When the Electoral College came along, it was so that, first of all, they did not trust the votes of the uneducated Americans. And for the most part, Americans were very uneducated. They didn't have information, and they would just vote what somebody told them. You vote this, and they would just go and do that. So what the government decided that we can't really trust what they're going to say. So they put the Electoral College in place to kind of ease or reduce the impact of the popular vote.
Or the common man.
And the common man, because they didn't trust that their decisions would be wise and informed.
Just like today, where the common man is so uninformed that they think that they should track down and chase down a campaign bus because of the dog whistling.
Right,
Or
but
the influence that the common man
back
has
to
on
but back
social
to
media
but back to
and
what we
news.
but back to
And
what we were
there's so many
saying.
people who just vote because they think they're supposed to vote a certain way instead of understanding what the issues are. If people understood what the issues are and really got involved, I mean, I've seen a lot of pro-life statements on social media lately, and I'm like, I'm pro-life. I love life, and I support life 100%. But I also believe that if you support life, then you should support the living. And so if women are forced to have children, if we're really going to go to that, then you're also forced to take care of those children and provide them a healthy environment, provide a good, solid education, make sure they're not living in poverty. But see, they want people to have children, but once that child is born, then they wash their hands of them. And so that's not pro-life to me.
But also, if we can get back to the 3/5, it was part of the compromise of the election with Tyler. And since it was such a tie and a dead heat, the compromise did two things. One, we were in a period of reconstruction of slavery. So the United States had the federal troops in the South to make sure that they did not intimidate, hurt, harm, or kill the now freed Americans or the slaves.
Right.
So part of that compromise was that we will get this president in if you remove the troops. We will eliminate, we will nullify the 3/5 rule with the Electoral College. So that was the big American compromise where money versus social issues became, and of course, as you know, money won.
Right, but what
All
I'm
day
asking,
long.
what I'm asking again is this. So imagine you lived in Idaho, Vermont, New Hampshire,
South Dakota.
South Dakota, North Dakota. Would you be happy? Would you be content knowing that in the end, the presidential election would rest on Texas, California, New York? Would you be okay with that?
No.
I would be no.
Well, most of them aren't.
Right, which is
And they're still in support of the Electoral College.
right.
But what we've run into is now in my lifetime 3 elections where the popular vote was now nullified by the Electoral College.
No.
And in each of those results, it has always ended bad for Black America.
No, well, okay, so that's a whole nother issue. But the fact, yeah, that's a completely different issue. But the fact that, and we can delve into that. But the fact that those states played pivotal roles, right, in carving out the requisite number of electoral votes needed is why I believe you have to have the Electoral College. Because without it, literally, they just wouldn't campaign in half of the country. They wouldn't have to. They literally would not. There would be no commercials there. The candidates wouldn't show up there. Nothing would happen. Those people would literally be marginalized. And I don't think that you can have that.
Well, I think one of the things that could nullify that is the simple fact of the primaries, which is one of the most important issues in terms of election. If we go and increase the number of primaries, people can now get better representation, and it would eliminate the delegates and the super delegates that come into those primaries that win extra points and get past the number. The thing that actually killed Bernie Sanders was the simple fact that once Biden won the Carolinas, he got those super delegates and ballots, and it was to the point of no return or no hope for Bernie. So that part can get us, it would work for us, getting us more fair and equitable candidates during the primaries. Because I mean, because it's a whole nother show of how many people truly support Biden. But right now, if Biden was not their candidate, right now Biden is the cards that were dealt to us.
I don't understand, and I think that it needs to be explained better why you say those small, without the Electoral College, those small states would not be considered because they still have votes. So whether they're Electoral College votes, which is only 2 or 3, as you just pointed out, or if if there's 10 million people in Idaho, that's 10 million people. So they're more important than those 2 electoral votes. So I would think that without the Electoral College nullifying what those people are saying, that it would be more. The candidates would have to go to Idaho, would have to go to Nebraska. When's the last time you heard of a presidential candidate going to Nebraska or Idaho?
Well, so here's
or North Dakota, except for
so here, so the deal is there are different each state. People have different interests, right? So in Vermont, those folks, they want to carry their guns and they want to be able to smoke pot and they want to be able to do all different things that they want to do, right? So they want representation that does that.
But doesn't everybody?
No. So they want representation that does that. Now, count the number of people who live in Vermont. Now take California, that has a whole different demographic. They have different needs. And if everybody's voting based on their specific interests, right? So now California is voting based on their interests. And now if you're purely counting the popular vote, you've got, I mean, I don't know, 10 times the number of people in California than you do in Vermont. And so
their issues, their views aren't going to be the same. And if the choice is between two people, somebody's going to vote for one person, somebody's going to vote for the other. I don't understand why you think that they would be disenfranchised, because the candidates have to address all of the issues.
no, they wouldn't.
So
That's my point. That's my point. They wouldn't.
I live in New Jersey, and ocean dumping is a big concern of mine.
Right.
And if that was the only issue I voted on, I would not have voted for Barack Obama, because he was dumping in the ocean. So one thing that I'm really, really down for doesn't mean that I don't think of everybody else. I mean, if I'm only thinking my personal stuff, then I don't think people vote that way. I don't vote just for myself. I vote for the good of the.
No, and I appreciate that, but I'm saying,
why wouldn't you vote for yourself? My concerns that you have in South Jersey would be the same concerns up here. So why would you vote for a candidate that does not support the majority of the issues that you want? Why not vote?
But it would be the majority of the issues. It wouldn't be just one issue. So I think that the people in California, they don't want ocean dumping. The people in Vermont don't. Nobody wants. I mean, maybe people in the middle of the country want ocean dumping. Don't care. But you have to think about the food chain. Like, I think about the food chain all the time, because once our environment goes, we're done.
right. So, but I'll give you an example. So, you care about the environment. You don't. I'm imagining that you want to put an end to fracking, right? But if you take those miners, right, whose livelihood depends on it, they're voting based on their specific interests. And so if they're marginalized based on the fact that folks who are in California, right, don't rely on that economy, and all those millions of people in California are going to vote it down, and then the people in Pennsylvania and those other areas where they rely on it say, well, wait a minute, we don't outnumber the people in California if we're dealing with a popular vote. And so they literally in California can decide my livelihood. You marginalize them.
That's the whole thing, Eric. And that was the actual start of the Civil War. Voting for their interests, where the South was voting for their interests in terms of keeping the institution of slavery.
Right, but
that was the whole.
I understand that, but you can't. I'm not going to have folks 3,000 miles away from me voting based on how I should be living. I want to be able to vote, and I want to have those around me being able to vote based on our, like I said, we're not monolithic, right? So the folks in California have their interests, and they live in California. That's why they don't live in Pennsylvania. That's why they don't live in some of these other coal mining states. They live in California. And so, yes, so Californians will vote the way Californians vote. And then you collect all of those electoral votes, and then they get added to the pile. But the people in Pennsylvania and those other areas, those rural areas, they have a say. And what you want to do is take their say away, because for you, it is for the common good.
But why are these national issues? I mean, why is fracking? If Pennsylvania decides to allow people to dig down into the shale, that's their business.
And Pennsylvania.
See, the thing about that with fracking is the pipeline.
Have the ability to buck or not agree with the federal mandates because they're individual constitutions. But however, they suffer the consequences of not getting the federal funding if they're not following what is stated by the president. And that's the whole issue that people wrestle with. The money that they're giving you versus the money that you're going to make.
Fracking doesn't just affect one particular state. It affects the whole environment. So if Pennsylvania decides that they want to frack, they're going to, once they've outlived the area in which they can do it, they will start to extend the pipeline. There was a concern in 2015 where they were trying to extend the pipeline through New Jersey. So that's an issue. So that's why when you talk about the electoral vote and the popular vote, it's important that everybody has a voice as opposed to individual voices, because we got more people in our state than we rule, as opposed to having a select number that votes for everybody.
Right. So I got a question for all of you. And Eric kind of hinted towards just now based on somebody's response.
Here, sit here.
And I guess what's the saying? Ice Cube and Diddy and Lil Wayne. Well, I guess I'll leave Lil Wayne. I could talk about that. But Ice Cube talked about a black agenda, and Diddy talked about a new party, our own party. So, are those two relevant? In you guys' opinion, is that? I know it's a discussion we need to have. But where do we begin with that discussion?
What a black agenda?
A new party and a black.
So and I said this before. Amina had to excuse herself. We were scrunched on a little chair, and her left leg is now numb. So she had to go and wake it up. Darren, we can't listen. We have no leverage. We're not operating from a position of strength. We have to have an economic base in order to do any of it. You know, my dad used to always say that. He said, listen, if you don't have an economic base, you can't get anything done. Most of what is done in this country is done by a handful of oligarchs, right? Because they control the purse strings. When you look and see how quickly money evaporates out of the black community, that's where we start. We have to slow that bleeding, right? And if we can't figure that out, to me, that is the major key performance indicator to determine when black people or black Americans are going to start to seize some power. When we can begin to slow that exodus of money out of our community. If we can't do that, nothing's going to change.
First and foremost, for that change is that black America has to understand their wealth. It's like understanding that they are truly the diamond in the rough. The biggest power that we have right now is the vote. And voting in our interest gets us the consensus of one, increased schools, better funding. We're talking about some legislation that can improve lending institutions, eliminate the racism in terms of getting a mortgage or a second mortgage, and and so that they now can take their investments, get homes, use them as investments, and start to build generational wealth.
But listen, Vincent, but you start again, and I fear that when we have these conversations, right? Because Darren said, where do we start? So we're talking about a foundation. And the foundation, so when we get to voting, that's on like the second or third floor of the house, right? We haven't built a foundation. And so when you look at this particular election right now, what do you see happening? You saw hundreds of millions of dollars being poured in, right? So it wasn't about just the vote. It's attached to something. And so on the Republican side, when they were talking about the $300 million that Donald Trump had in his war chest, and then when they consolidated the Democratic base, and then you saw the hundreds of millions of dollars being, that's where the game is. And if we can't get there, everything that you're talking about is pie in the sky. And guess what? Go look at those elect reports. Black people are not represented in those elect reports. And so we won't get anything. Nothing is going to fundamentally change. We have to be at that economic table.
Okay, well, this is the thing with the economic table in terms of election. In the 2008 race, where Barack was running against Hillary Clinton, Hillary Clinton had the support of the Democratic Party, in which she got a majority of the bulk of the funding from them.
Correct.
Barack Obama got an average of $26 donation.
Absolutely. But no doubt. But in the end, and I say this to you again, and this is something where we disagree, I'm saying the key performance indicators racial wealth gap, the racial education, all of the areas where black folks are still anchored to the very bottom of everything. So, yeah, we had a black president. We're still anchored to the very bottom of everything, right? And so, wait a minute. And so, in order for us to extricate ourselves from our current condition and change the trajectory of black Americans, we need to have money. So folks argue what? Well, Obama didn't have the votes. He didn't have the this. He didn't have the that. We don't have the right? Because of money, they were able to rule the day again. And I'm looking now. So you have individuals, right?
One of the things that we don't have in the black community that I've seen as a former business owner is support of our businesses.
True.
And we do not support that's why the black dollar leaves the black community. Because instead of going to the black dress store that's on the avenue, we go to the white store at the mall. You know, and why can't we keep our dollars in? I live in Camden County, and we have a large city, a very poor city, Camden, and there is a community in Camden that is largely Hispanic, and those Hispanic dollars, they go to the Hispanic hairdressers, they go to their Hispanic restaurants, supermarkets. They keep the accountants, insurance.
But
it's amazing.
But you know why? But I'm not amazed at it.
I'll tell you why black people don't do it. Because when we came to America, we were separated. And we were taught to be separate. And we were taught to, crabs in a barrel. And everybody has to work individually for themselves. And then there was a period where we had our own communities in our own towns. And then white people came in and they swarmed in and they stopped that because they didn't want us to have any particular power.
Right.
And then you get to the point now that where you can start building together and working together, it's not being done because we don't know it. It's not inherent to us. Come here, Hispanics, Puerto Ricans, Mexicans, people from Guatemala, Africans that come over here, and you see that they're always working together. They build their networks together. They move together. They live in the same vicinity. They send their kids to the same school. They do everything together because they've learned and they know from birth what a village is. We don't know that. So you're trying to retrain black Americans, and I'm saying black Americans, not African Americans, black Americans, something that we have never been taught before.
Right, we gotta call.
We know better.
Years of training. Some of us do, some of us don't. But you're also told this is the same process of retraining. It's like retraining your grandmother to do something that she has been doing for 90 years.
Right.
It's very difficult. It will take another 90 years to convince her that what you're saying is another way that it can happen.
We got a call. Call or go.
But we got
my God. Well, I love this conversation, and it's most interesting. Just a couple of things. Now we know, Diane, when Vincent goes off the hinges, we just have to call Miss.
I know! Do you see what? I wasn't going to say anything. It's the school teacher in her. She probably has a ruler next to wrap him on his knuckles.
He has a screen jet. He has a screen jet. He has
like, wow, his body language is different. He's like a little less tempered. It is so cool to see. And Eric, you're
wait, and Jody, no sexist comments, none of that.
But they wouldn't let me talk. It's beautiful. It's beautiful to see.
Hey, wait a minute. Hey, Jody.
You and Amina kind of look alike. You are a beautiful, beautiful couple. That is so beautiful to see. But Vincent, you are not on the messaging this morning. We have a few hours to go, and you're talking about all this other stuff, you're just supposed to just keep repeating, dump Trump, dump Trump, dump Trump. And it's election day. What is going on? I was like, I didn't want to call in because I'm like, Lord, you're going to be the bad guy, Jody. So yeah, I'm going to be the bad guy this morning with the last 30 minutes before the election is over, and we're talking about it next day tomorrow. Vincent, we must stay on the messaging. A couple of other things. When we talked about the Florida vote and Hispanics, I think sometimes we lump Hispanics into one big group because, yes, Donald Trump has that 29% of the Cuban vote, but he does not have that 27% of the 850,000 of the Puerto Rican vote. That is not, I don't think that's true. And while you guys were talking, I was reading a couple of op-eds and I read a couple of numbers that in 2016 that Puerto Rican vote didn't really come out for Hillary Clinton. Well, they're seeing those numbers escalate, and I do believe that vote is for Biden. Biden. I feel like I need Vincent to come back into the fold. I know your wife's sitting next to you, but she seems to be on our team too. She's just a little less hyper than you are, but she's on our team, so you can go for it. This morning, and you can fight for the Biden ticket, and we can push this because we only have a few hours to go.
Oh, and it's going to go on for a couple of days after. But
Jody, are we doing a drinking game tonight? Or are we doing a watch party tonight? What are we doing tonight?
Listen,
Celebrate.
I'm telling you, I bought a big bottle of Moscato last night, right? I just drink a little cup. I was holding it for you. I am so looking forward to this evening. I feel like if we could get Florida's in, if we could just get Florida's in and we win it, even if it's by a quarter of a point, I think that would be the end of Donald Trump. I think that's not important. We would kind of know something as opposed to waiting these days out. So I am going to be right there. I am going to have my Moscato ready. And we're just going to, Diane, let's say we're going to drink every time Trump wins the state, because I'm going to need that.
Okay, let's do that. I like that one.
So
y'all gonna be real sober today, boy.
So wait a minute. I want to ask you.
In fact, I'm going to do it live so we can watch it throughout. I may only be able to last but I'm going in.
But for those people who are paying attention to the show and have not cast your vote, remember one thing. And what we said is that where do we start? It starts right here, right now.
Absolutely.
To improve our condition, we cannot allow Donald Trump another 4 years.
Let me ask you a question. When you watch the returns coming in, tonight, what state, what returns from which states would be an early indicator to you that things may not be going your way?
Florida,
Ohio, Pennsylvania.
Because for Trump, it's going to be a bad night.
Say that again. I'm sorry, Mrs. Squire.
If Pennsylvania goes for Trump, it's going to be a bad night.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
I don't know, guys. Only because, don't forget now, if you look at, and I went through, we had a diagram for it. If you look at the path to the magic number, Biden has, I think, 5 or 6 ways to get there, as opposed to Trump. So he does. So Biden could lose. He could lose Pennsylvania and still win.
Still gain Wisconsin and Iowa.
California has 55. That's the big fish. Texas has 38. That's competitive. New York and Florida has 29. Illinois and Pennsylvania has 20. Ohio has 18. But then you get to Michigan and Georgia, which both have 16. So there's many, many paths for Biden. So he can lose Pennsylvania. He can even lose Florida.
Right. In fact, on the numbers, he could lose Pennsylvania and Florida and still win.
But it's his home state.
Right, but the question is if you lose those, so yes, you can say theoretically, right, mathematically, yeah, you can lose this and still win, but it would give you some indication of how the message has resonated with those people, right? And then you look at the overlay in terms of what we were talking about earlier, common interests, right? And you say, well, okay, if it resonated here, right, where we didn't think it was, and these people share common interests, there may be a likelihood that it resonated there as well. So I agree with you. I think in Pennsylvania.
So the key states that they talk about at the polls, they said Florida, which they called in 2016 at 4:30 a.m. The pollsters promised that a quick count is going to come this year. It could be one of the first to declare, and it is used as the handling lots of the mail-in ballots. Oh, because they're used to handling lots of mail-in ballots. Sorry, I'm reading for a small thing. If Biden takes this state, it will be nearly impossible for Trump to win. Georgia called last time at 4:50 a.m. North Carolina calls at 4:23 a.m. Polls have the state on a knife edge. Whoever wins will receive a huge boost for the night. Ohio called 3:36, and these are 2016s. 3:36 a.m. A close race expected with those for the postal votes, meaning that this year's count could take longer. So
it's Ohio going to take way longer.
Right. So Pennsylvania called last year, 2016, at 6:15 a.m. But the count could still take days. The large number of postal votes will not be counted until tomorrow. They started opening them yesterday in Pennsylvania and reboxing them and certifying them with a Republican and a Democratic delegate, but they won't start counting until tomorrow morning. Texas last time called at 2 a.m. and they're set to be prompt again. So we should hear something around 2. If Biden seizes this from a Republican stronghold, Trump is in a world of trouble. Michigan is too close to call for the election in 2016. It took them 14 days later to call it in Michigan. So that's kind of what we're looking at with those swing states.
So what, and also what we have to look at is the messaging. Trump messaging has been not going after the undecideds. He's been basically going in there and supporting his Republican base. And that may prove to be fatal for him because he did not win the election by his base. He won the election by the lack of voter turnout for Black and Hispanic. He won by the increase of voter turnout by middle-class white women. He won by the simple fact of underperformance in two groups and overperformance in another. So everybody.
But it makes very good sense as to why he wouldn't talk to anybody but his base. You have to make sure your base is strong. All the other ones will fall through. He doesn't have time to talk to anybody else because he doesn't have any messaging for them.
That's true. Now, on the other hand, the campaign strategy of the Bidens was to get to reinvigorate the youth and Black vote and Hispanic vote. It was to, one, build a bigger attraction and stronger base of the women voters, especially the Black women voters. It was to get those states that Trump turned red to now turn back to blue.
I think it's going to be very unlikely that tonight when we go to bed that we will know who won the election.
I agree.
And it's not possible. New Jersey can't count all those ballots that we mailed in and go to those ballot boxes. They can't do that before tonight.
Well, let's not say can't. Let's say they won't. Let's be realistic. They won't.
Yeah.
There's going to be a point they're going to stop counting. If anybody who went in today to do what provisional ballot, it won't get counted until next week.
Yeah, so it's how will we know?
Well, that's one of the biggest reasons Trump is trying to get to all the courts and have those ballots not counted.
Even if all the ballots are in tonight,
they still
can't
get
count
counted.
them all.
Not to mention,
They're not used to it.
Not to mention the way he screwed up the post office for the mail-in ballots are coming in a week later.
Yeah, they have to allow that.
Yeah, it's too much. We won't know tonight. I agree with you. Yeah, we won't know tonight. The only way we will know tonight, it would have to be a few states that started counting early because there's so many ballots.
Now, yeah. Now, New Jersey could do it if they started counting this morning. It's possible to get a preliminary number if they started this
preliminary. Yeah.
Anything that comes through the machine is an automatic count, so they don't have to worry about that. It just depends because it all overseen by the Democratic governor as to what he's allowing them to do and what he's telling them to do. That's what's out on the numbers that come out. Because political ballots, like I said, may not get counted until next week, or depending on the numbers that they start counting the mail-in ballots, they may not count them at all.
Sure.
Well, they can't because there's still ballots that are being mailed as we speak that won't get there till 3 or 4 days.
At the earliest.
That was part of him rerouting the distribution centers of the post offices so that the mail takes an average of 4 to 7 days to get to you. So those that get there late in the cutoff, they're going to fight and say no, they shouldn't be counted.
Yes, of course. You know that's coming.
Well, if I was on the ballot, I'd say it too. If it didn't come in and my numbers were looking good, don't count them. Throw them out. I'll be right in court too, having them put on out.
But here is one of the things for the pro of eliminating the Electoral College. And I understand that it is unfair in those very underpopulated states. However, it should be one vote, one president. Not one vote and then, because he's campaigning hard over here to get more of the Electoral College votes that he wins the election. It should be no. It should be the popular vote or the vote of the people that should be the deciding factor of who is the most powerful citizen in the free world. I'm tired of it being politicized.
Right, but I think Eric's point is so good, Vincent, because if you had where the candidates and their surrogates are going, they certainly not even thinking about the District of Columbia or Wyoming or Vermont or South and North Dakota or Montana with their three, and Delaware and Alaska with their 3 electoral votes. They're not thinking about Rhode Island, New Hampshire, Idaho, Hawaii, or Maine with their 4 electoral votes.
Of course.
What? I mean, they're spending all of their time where the big amounts of electoral votes are.
Well, this gives the candidates an opportunity to go into those states and actually hear their issues, because now hear me. Now they've been sidestepping these smaller electoral votes states, and we rarely hear them in any primaries. But what we do, but they still have a voice, and they have none with those 3. Yet changing it and going by population, it forces candidates to go there. If they're not doing good in these popular states like Texas, which is all Republican, then it allows a Democrat to hit all of these smaller ones. One of the biggest techniques that American businesses studied, which was by Attila the Hun, was not to conquer the large one, but you build up the smaller ones and you outnumber them and then overpower them.
Wow. It's going to be interesting. That's all I
Listen, man.
But I got a question for you, Diane, on that other issue we were talking about a black agenda or black party, et cetera. Or anybody can, besides Diane, after Diane answers. So, Diane, how do you think it was so possible that years ago there were much more black-owned mom-and-pop businesses than there are now? So there had to be some sense of working together. And I'm not just talking about the Black Wall Street states were, et cetera, like Tulsa, Oklahoma, and other places where they have, semblance of Black Wall Street situations. Where the black dollars was staying in the community 276 hours or days or whatever it was, et cetera. I'm talking about there were so many, if you look at Newark, if you look at Jersey City, just looking out area here, you have so many black-owned businesses up and down the strip off the King Drive, off the Boulevard. You had that hours not able to work.
So, and my family comes from business owners too. So my grandfather had a store, a country store in North Carolina. And he had a lawn mowing business, and he worked for the Coca-Cola plant. So he was doing a million things. But what happened, the difference between then and now is also segregation. When we thought that we needed to be included in everybody else's lifestyle, we started to exclude our own, because now we had access and legal access to go into other people's stores and purchase their products. And then when that happened, then after that, then we had these big box stores and monopolies that drowned out our small businesses. You had Home Depot come in. You had Ace Hardware come in that knocked out our small, home goods stores. But that also was part of politics, because we elected people that did not see or understand us as a people. So we had, like AOC and Ayanna Presley says, we had black faces that weren't black voices. So they went themselves, and they didn't look at what the community wanted, because they never had a conversation with the community. They were going in for themselves so that they can elevate themselves. And that's how our businesses were destroyed. So now you come into the 1990s and the 2000s, and businesses are starting to pop up here and there, but then you have lack of access to funds. So the people that are sitting in the banks don't look like us.
Well, but
they aren't giving loans to us.
Yeah, but that was happening. But that was happening then too. And that was part of the reason of the decline of black businesses, lack of capital, right? So as competition began to increase, right, options for consumers, black-owned businesses couldn't compete. Right, they couldn't get the resources to be able to compete. So, if you got to a point where you now wanted to go buy a roll of toilet paper, and you went to the business that you used to go to, and that roll of toilet paper is costing, I don't know, $1, but you go over here and you can get that same roll of toilet paper for 70 cents, right? That played a huge role in it too. I'm sorry.
Well, I mean, and then even if you look in the hair industry, which women, black men, we spend a lot of money in the hair industry, but we don't own any of it. We don't own any of it. And they have blocked us out. The Asians have blocked us out. And that came from government that allowed them to come in to give them money to help start their business, and it blocked us out.
Okay, well, here is one thing. There were two things that happened in the early 1900s, late 1800s. There was what they call Black Wall Street, which 300 acres was owned by Gurley, who started the black community, black businesses. And then you had the project in Wilmington, North Carolina, which was huge. What happened to actually distinguish that? Because Black Wall Street, they had, in that neighborhood, they had 3 families that owned their own private planes and only 2 airports. And they had movie theaters and hotels that held, the hotel held over 400 people. So there was an area of black progress and growth. What happened was that also because blacks were allowed to vote, and we had black legislation, black senators, black in Congress, which looked after our interests, and we supported them with campaign donations, which kept that going. What happened with that is, one, the propaganda of black rule, because poor whites started finding out that now these descendants of slaves are doing far better than them. Their kids are going to college, and they're making millions of dollars. So then we had the experiment where, of course, they went after the people in Black Wall Street, and that violence, and the same violence that happened in Wilmington. Then came the legislation that came into place that took away the civil rights and the right to vote. Not to mention, as Diane mentioned, starting businesses that were under capital, and the bankers didn't look like you anymore. So that was the demise of it. And then we go into the crab in the barrel theory. These black small businesses, a lot of people don't go to them because they're black, and they're afraid that he's going to get an extra ramen noodle in his shopping list than they got.
You know, a lot of it is psychological and cultural and all that. But don't go back to 100 years. Let's just stay in the here and now.
Okay,
That's
so
all very interesting, but what do we do now? Like, where do we go from here? Because this is 2020 and we're still talking about the same stuff.
but it's the condition of what happened. See, that's the problem. If you don't talk about what happened, you can't improve because you keep repeating the same thing over and over again, thinking that, oh, we'll do it different this time, we'll do it different, and it doesn't work because you didn't even understand why it failed before.
I understand the concept.
Economic development. We need to have financing. We need to start our own banks, our own credit unions.
Yeah. Our own banks. There are
Right here in New
own
Jersey.
banks.
There's United One. There is Capital One. There is First United. There are blacks that own credit unions. There are churches that have credit unions now.
Yeah, and we're not taking advantage of it. We're not supporting those businesses that can help us. And, just like we had the Black Panther movement had its issues, but it also had a very strong self-help social policy.
Yeah, tuberculosis, free lunch, preschool, vaccinations.
And education would go a long way to helping our community. And we don't seem to be
educating our children
on what happened. And I talk about it in my class, but a lot of teachers don't.
And we still, in terms of education, we are still teaching our children from the books which were established by the daughters of the Confederate.
There we go. There we go. I mean, look, everything that we consume, every single thing that we consume, from kindergarten all the way up, right? So whether it's through school, whether it's what we're listening to on the radio, we're watching on television, all of those things are major contributors to what the outcome of the Black American experience is. And Vincent, you bring it up all the time, right, on the show. You say Malcolm's quote was, only a fool would allow his enemy to educate his children, right? So we continue down that path, and then we wonder why generation after generation we wind up with the same results.
That we wind up with is that we have such a pro-white educational process, is that it teaches our black children that they have no wealth.
Right.
They have no value.
No value. I mean, what was the experiment? Remember they did the experiment. We got to call it, but they did the experiment with the little girls, right? With the black dolls, right?
Yeah.
And she rejected it. She said because it's ugly, right? And so it was a reflection of her. And she said it was ugly. And so when we see that and we wonder why don't we support black businesses? Well, because we think that we're ugly, right? We think that we're not worthy. We think all of these things because of the conditioning. But we did it on the show. We had the book review of the Willie Lynch letter and the making of a slave, right? And what did he say? When there is no back door, he will make one. Right. See if we condition them correctly, and that's what they've been doing. Call or go.
Hey, I had to put a very interesting conversation there, and thought-provoking. But before I go into the answer Ms. Vincent's question, fracking is different than mining. And it has nothing to do with pipelining oil from one end of the country to the other. Fracking is a search for gases through drilling, and it creates such poison for the water, and it doesn't create a lot of jobs. Number one. So, but where do we go from here? We can't. We have to start teaching our kids that solar, wind, and water is powerful resources, and educate them how to convert that to power. It goes back to what Eric was saying, how we our vote is on the third floor. No, our vote, it should insulate the house. and once our vote is insulating the house to keep the power that we keep using to keep it warm and comfortable or cold, then we can build policy. But we have to get into a mindset that, one, when water and all kinds of resources, we have to stop. The most important thing Biden said throughout the debate was that we're going to transition away from oil. We should have all stood up in our chairs and applauded, because the oil company and the mining company and the fracking company is making this place uninhabitable, and that we can make ourselves powerful if we get into those industries. Solar, the sun, wind, and water power is something that is the way of the future. If I'm making any sense.
If I could add to what you were saying, we have...
You were interrupting me, Vincent, but I'm going to let you talk.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I'm sorry for being rude. But we have built Mid-Eastern countries because of our overdependence of oil. That is, in America, the third largest transference of wealth every year.
Every day. Yes. Every day, every second of the day. But we have to also transition from an old way of thinking that oil is the answer for everything. And the only way we're going to keep our community, because we need an electrician, we got to go outside of our community. We need a plumber, we got to go outside of our community. We need, most of everything we need, that money is not circulating within our community, to Eric's point.
Not to mention technology, because I'm really tired of calling these health centers and getting people to help me that I can't understand what they're saying.
Yeah.
I always tell them, look, man, tell somebody American call me back. That's the first thing I say. But I'm going to get back on the road. You guys enjoy. It's very insightful today. Thank
so, it's going to be very interesting. I'm sorry.
I remember when, and I told the story before on one of the shows about black wealth and, the intending the net wealth will be zero. Jersey City had a black-owned supermarket called City Market Supermarket. I don't market King Drive in Jersey City, perfect location, etc. Well, a guy named Dan Banks owned it. At that time, it was the only black-owned supermarket that I knew about. Well, what wound up happening is, just that somebody talked about. Pathmark was still open at that time, and of course ShopRite and other ones. Well, people were going to City Market, and they would say, man, why is the tuna fish 5 cents more than it is at ShopRite? Or why is the string beef or this or the patty or 7 cents more? What they did not realize is that owner did not have a relationship with the vendors, so he wasn't able to buy in bulk that he was coming out to, etc. So people would travel down to ShopRite or Pathmark and other places,
right,
using their gas money or their cab fare or bus fare, not realizing you wound up paying more by doing that. And the principle was to make sure you kept the black dollar in the city. And of course, that's the market for not a weak side. I mean, we need a lot of help in the area of financial literacy. We need a lot of help in the area of not to play that credit card game. So people don't understand the credit card game where it's plastic, it's not money. You can't pay it for within 30 to 45 days. Then the finance partner start hitting you, but you charge something for, let's say, $100. And they charging you $15 a month for the payment. Well, when you make that minimum payment of $16, $14, $15 of it is going to the finance charge.
Right.
You never touching the principal that you paid for.
That's right.
Yeah. Well, see, one of the things that we don't...
We have to learn.
But one of the things, Darren, that we don't understand is this. So when you use the example of the tuna fish costing more, right? As Black Americans, everything shouldn't be a commodity, right? So when you're price shopping, then that tuna is just a commodity. But when it's attached to, right, black business ownership, that should take on a whole new value for you, a whole new value system that then says, yeah, I'm willing to pay 5 cents more because I understand this thing to be greater than the commodity. Which is why, and I use them as one of the examples, when I used to, go talk about marketing, and this is really where we need to start. We need to remarket, right? And I said this a couple of years ago, right, Diane? I said, what is the black brand?
Yep.
Right? What is the black brand? We need a marketing strategy, a marketing campaign, right? And one of the brands that I use always as an example is Apple. You don't see, maybe they do now, but for the longest, they never had sales. Whatever an Apple product costs is what it costs. And people bought it because they wanted to be part of a community, right? So they didn't go and price shop. They said, I want that thing that has that Apple on the back of it because it's cool and I want to be a part of it. Right? Now, that's where we need to be in terms of building the black brand. That, as opposed to that little girl who said, I don't want that doll because it's ugly, right? And even though it was a reflection of her, need to be able to say, no, I want it because it's cool. I want to be a part of it because it's cool. And then you're not looking at the price of it, right? You understand that there's a greater intrinsic value to it. And we need to get there through some sort of a marketing campaign, similar to the one that they had with the Native American who was really Indian on the side of the. Really an Italian dude who was on the side of the road with the tear, right? Yeah, he was Italian, but we need something.
He was Italian.
That guy was not Indian. He's not Native American. Really? He was an Italian guy.
Well, they played that commercial when I was a kid. So
he was Italian. But the point that I'm making is this: we need something like that. That.
You know what, Eric? That starts at the government level. If we had
No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't.
Mayors to push that out.
No. It starts at home, Diane. Now, what I will tell you is this. If it started at home, and then so I agree with you, Vince, started at home, and then you had a groundswell of it, right? Then you can push it to policy changes. But you can't go up on the third floor and tell these policymakers who, are negotiating only based on those who have positions of strength, and you don't have that, and you're going to go to that policymaker and say, hey, listen, let's make a deal. It ain't going to happen. But when you...
If I can add to what Eric was saying, it starts at home. Look at the birth of Apple. One of the biggest things that made Apple popular is when they started coming out, they donated computers to schools. So when these white parents started buying home computers and they took their kids to these shops, the kids were familiar with, guess what? Apple.
Yeah.
The same thing happens with the understanding of black dollar and black pride. It starts at home.
Yeah.
My child is a reflection of what she learns at home.
But you know what though? But when we allow so let's stay there for a second. So yes, it all starts at home, right? But when we willfully send our children to these factories of death called schools, and for 6 hours, they're being told that they're marginal, when they're being told that they're not worthy, and I told you this, when I was an art director for Prentice Hall, and they were putting out books where you had a white kid next to a black kid, and they said, circle the kid that's happy. And it was a white kid, and it said, circle the kid that's angry, and it was a black kid. When we at home allow that, right?
Exactly.
What do you expect your child to grow up and be and do? So that's why I keep saying the first thing that we all need to do is we need to march to these damn schools, and we need to demand that all of these books, all of them, be burned.
Eric,
We have yet to understand how poisonous it is.
Eric, we are in a COVID world. We don't have to march into the schools. All we got to do is step into our child's room and talk to them about that bullcrap curriculum. Oh, I'm sorry, teacher. Go ahead.
First of all, the parents aren't doing those sorts of things.
That's right.
And
That's right. That's
they're
right.
not even knowing that their children aren't online
That's right.
in school.
That's right.
And so there's a breakdown somewhere. And I'm no sociologist, psychologist, or anything. I'm just a teacher trying to get the point across to my students. And when they don't have the support at home, you know, all of the talking heads and all of the day, why isn't there school tomorrow? Because they don't even know it's election day. Then we have a problem.
Yeah.
In our community.
Yeah.
We have a problem when the parents don't know what the children are doing and they're sitting in the same room. We have a problem when the child is supposed to be at school and the parent knows that the child's supposed to be at school, but she still has to watch Jerry Springer, and so the child cannot communicate with their class because every time they open their mic, Jerry Springer's on. Or they're playing music all loud, or Lord knows what's going on.
Yeah.
And so our children are really in an environment that is not conducive to education, to learning, and nobody's supporting their learning, and nobody's encouraging their learning. So we're asking a 9 or a 10-year-old to say, you know what, take ownership of what you do.
Yeah.
When nobody around them is.
And you know what? And
we're in a bad place right now.
We are, and we're
Quiet, can I ask you a question?
yeah. We got 2 minutes.
So I'm a parent, and
We got 2 minutes.
wow. All right. So do you think that do you think, especially if you have chosen to be a teacher in a poverty-stricken urban area, do you think there is more that can be done on the side of the district, knowing those issues of drugs and poverty and mental illness as well? And before you answer, I'm only asking that question because I've already seen structures like in Philadelphia, the black superintendent years ago implemented the parent university where they
We're at noon.
schooling a situation, right? Do you think that the district takes any ownership of the failure of that situation and not putting those pieces together?
So I'm gonna let you wait. After you answer this question, I'm gonna let that be the last word for the show. Go ahead.
I just think that you put a lot on the district. I think that programs are available in most urban districts. There is a parent-teacher connection. There's a parent office that offers support to families, but the families that are identified by the teacher are extended a hand over, you know, not out, but over. Like, come on over and we can work together. But because it's not all families. The schools do have a responsibility to helping the families, but the families also have a responsibility to helping their children. And so they have to work together in a partnership. Thank you.
Well, let me close. Well, listen, again, this was another, can I have the phone back, please?
Oh.
This was another exciting and passionate 2 hours. This is always the fastest 2 hours that I've experienced in my day. So, I like to say this. If you haven't voted, get out to vote. Mail in your ballots. Because voting is the easiest and cheapest way that you have in changing the conditions that you're living in right now. Wash your hands. Stay safe. Keep social distance. As always, I'm Vincent Squire, on behalf of Diane, the Queen of Media, and Eric, the King of Cobbler. And I want to thank all of the callers and our special guests, Amina, and the love of my life. I like to say, be blessed, be kind.
I gotta call Warren. I gotta call Warren.
Philippa Squire. Be kind, Be wonderful. If it's God's will, we'll be back on Thursday to express what's happening in this election.
Thursday?
What's affecting our lives.
Why Thursday?
Why
It's
Thursday?
off Wednesday.
Oh, that's.
Wednesday.
You know what? We may have to.
No, they don't listen.
No, but we may have to. Yeah, I don't even listen.
You don't even listen to your own.
I don't even listen to my own thing. But no.
The reason why my husband is not on. They don't listen.
We may have to do a special Wednesday show. Tomorrow's the day after election day.
Okay. We're going to call it the post-Trump Partum Depression show.
Yes.
Oh, we'll see.
All right.
How tipsy I get tonight.
I'm gonna get a bunch of sleep tonight, so I'll be available.
Diane's husband do fill in for Diane because she may be drunk.
All right,
I
guys.
want to thank all of our callers. So if it's God's will, we'll be back tomorrow.
Uh,
God bless everyone.